Hello, everyone in internet land. Everyone who can receive a signal from where we are. Happy day after Easter to all who celebrate, or day after 420 for those who celebrate that more. It is April 21st, 2025. We are here tonight with a former hip hop rap artist and a former Mennonite, and I will leave it to you to guess which is which. But no, I'm so excited.
Yeah. I think I just confused Mennonites and Amish real quick.
They're virtually the same.
Okay.
They are
say you wearing
almost the
black
same thing.
might give it away.
Yeah. That's it. Partially, I guess that's where I get my wardrobe from, and I don't wear any of those fancy buttons like the Mennonites down the road with their 3 buttons showing off, as they did. You laugh. That was an actual thing in Mennonite communities. How many buttons you're allowed to have before God thinks you're showing off? Yep.
What?
Anyway.
Wow.
Welcome, Brady Goodwin, to the show. I know you've been on the line before, but you may be new to a lot of people. I am very excited to be hosting with you. Also, foolishly, the folks over the line have let me have the controls and the voice tonight, so we'll see what happens. Normally, I'm supervised, so Brady, that might need to be your role.
I'm glad to be riding shotgun, so you got it.
So Brady, for those who don't know, Brady is a former Christian and has a book out, Let There Be Gaslight. But not my autofocus isn't working there. And tell us a little bit about. I know that book was meant to be a bookend for part of your life. Tell us a little bit about the book and why you are still on the internet talking about God when you don't believe in him.
Yeah. Right. I get that all the time on my Facebook page and on my YouTube. If you don't believe, just leave it alone. Why are you still talking about it? You sound like a jaded ex. I wrote the book I get it all the time. I wrote the book in 2022 because as a Christian rap artist, I was part of a group called the Cross Movement, which was the flagship Christian rap group. Many people credit us with making Christian hip hop what it was, Christian rap what it was. And as a result of that, I felt like I owed an explanation to very many people. I'm talking tens of thousands of people who felt confident to claim Jesus Christ as God and Savior and all that because of what I had done for the past 30 years of my life. So as I was coming out of the faith, I saw that one of the key issues for me was evolution and how that takes apart Paul's argument in Romans 5. If you don't have a historical Adam and Eve. And I saw so many Christian Old Testament scholars, apologists, leaders, basically gaslighting people, like acknowledging that, yes, this is a problem, but here's how we solve it. And they each had different ways of solving it. And to me, it screamed, you're lying to people. And so I wrote the book, Let There Be Gaslight, to sort of just say, hey, here's why I'm leaving. If you ever start sniffing and feel like you're smelling BS, this book will tell you why you feel that way. So I put that out and plan to just walk away. And then a team of, they call themselves urban apologists, they did a probably like a 10 or 15 person response to my book, chapter by chapter. And so to respond to their responses to my book, I started a YouTube channel, had some former Christian friends of mine come and join me. And that snowballed into now I've been doing this for 2 years, just on YouTube, talking about why I don't believe and why you don't have to believe either.
Well, being on YouTube is a huge mistake, as we all know, but here we are. I'm sure we're going to get into more about that as the calls come in, but we do want to remind everyone this is a call-in show. So we prioritize theist calls. We are most interested in hearing what you believe, why you believe it, and why should Brady and I believe what you believe. Because, Brady, am I correct in saying that if you found, if someone presented you with evidence that made you believe, you would believe again, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a tautology. If I believed, I would believe.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not the kind of thing where if I believed, I would, as Paul says in Romans 1, I would suppress the knowledge of the truth. No, get me to acknowledging that that's true, and I'll do what I do with true things. I'll live in light of it.
A lot of people ask, well, okay, you believe, but would you worship? And I'm like, well, it depends on which hell I've decided is true, and it depends on which heaven we've decided is true, and what that God demands of me. I think pragmatically, if it's a pretty bad hell, I think I would probably go along with it, just because I'm kind of a pragmatic person. But if it's just, so let us know which God is the real one, and we will assess from there.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to get your thoughts. So we had Easter yesterday. So Jesus rose, but the Pope, on the same day, the Pope passes. He could not survive a J.D. Vance visit, or maybe he was holding on specifically so that J.D. Vance could visit him. But
he rejoiced to see his day.
When I was a Christian, I didn't think. That's right. When I was a Christian, I actually didn't think that Catholics were Christians. I don't know. What kind of boat were you in on that?
I existed in the gray area on quite a few issues, and so while I thought that Catholicism was false and that they worshipped Mary, I found out from someone who says no, we don't worship Mary. I thought that it was false, but it was close enough where God might have mercy on sincere Catholics. That's sort of what I thought.
Yeah, I thought there were individual Catholics who probably would get into heaven, but that the organization itself wasn't necessarily, God-fearing. I know when Christopher Hitchens died, I recall that time, and at the time, a lot of the sentiment was, well, now he knows there's a God, and there was, a lot of that finger wagging, glad he'll be in hell sentiment. And it occurred to me today as the Pope passed, it's like, if my worldview is correct, the Pope will never know that his worldview was wrong. So in the way that's kind of lucky for the Christian, right? They never have to. What? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's sad though, because in the same way that you said Christians were sort of, gloating over Hitchens' death, I would imagine, and I think I know some Christians who probably would look at the Pope the same way they look at Hitchens and say, well, now he knows he was wrong too.
Oh, that is perhaps correct. Yeah, that's true. The thing is, if our worldview is correct, when a theist dies, they actually never have to spend any time reveling in being wrong. They just, cease to exist. Whereas if you and I are wrong,
is it bad that sometimes I think this way? So you let me know. You can chastise me now. Sometimes I think I wish there was just like a I don't know, a 10-second window where after death where atheists get to tell believers, see,
I did. I have right. thought the same. No, yeah. If that deserves admonishment, we both deserve it, because I have kind of lamented, and that was the point of my chat here. Was I don't even get a 10-second. You were wrong about this. Exactly. Oh well. Well, we're looking for theists to call in. I want to actually pre-thank, just in case I forget, Stephanie is our call screener tonight, and I want to thank all of our mods who I'm assuming, are doing an amazing job in the chat right now. But are you ready to get to some calls?
Sure.
I should actually mention we will be having the link to Brady's book and to his YouTube channel will be in the description. But don't go there till we're done the calls, because we have some great calls. And if you want a super chat, $5 or more super chats, we will be looking at the end. So, but let's start with we do have a theist caller. We have Lady Love, and I will join Lady Love. They, them, God is love. The whole point of Christianity is that God is love and to love one another. Atheists are the biggest believers. How do you explain the observer effect? I don't know, Lady Love, if that is what you wanted to talk about. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. You're a little bit quiet, so if you could get close to your mic, that would be great.
Is this better?
That is better. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit more about this God being love, and how do you know?
Well, I would say that okay, I would say that I know from personal experience. I would also say that I know from watching other people experience showing God's love, like receiving God's love and giving God's love. I was raised in a very loving household. It was a Christian household. I actually had a nice little chat with your screener, and they were telling me that they were an atheist since they were 13 years old. And it was actually around that same age when I sort of like abandoned my faith because I had friends that were Jewish. I had friends that were Catholic. I don't remember. And like one of my friends, like they didn't believe in anything, and I just couldn't understand how like my faith would say, "Oh, they're gonna burn in hell," because they don't believe the same things that I believed. I felt it just didn't make sense because overall we agreed with one another. We got along with one another. We loved one another. So I was like, you know what? I can't really rock with Christianity anymore. But so then it's like, I'm 13, you get into things. I had my, wild times in college. And I would say that sinning was one of the hardest things, I guess, to rationalize, or like I didn't want to be a Christian because I didn't want to deal with hell, I guess. Like if I want to do things with my man, like I'm gonna like burn in hell. Like I couldn't agree with that logic because I felt like being with people and just, sharing space and caring about one another, like no matter what form it took, like I didn't see why um it would land you in hell. It wasn't actually until recently I've been following Brady's page, like as an atheist or believing myself to be an atheist because I was doing a lot of things, and so I just didn't accept the faith. But hearing people come on the shows, and I guess some atheists, like the way they speak, it just I guess sort of turned me off to disbelief. Because one of my biggest things is like nobody knows. Like we don't know if God is real or not. So atheists being on the side where they're saying God is not real, that's a belief because you don't know. And then Christians and all other religions being on the side where they're like God is real and you should worship God in this way and you should do these rituals. I think that's just as like, they don't know. But I think that the Christian Bible does a really good job, whether you follow it as a story or you truly believe it. If you read the word for yourself, the whole theme or conclusion is that you're supposed to treat people with respect, love thy neighbor, and God is love. And I don't see how people miss that, or I don't see how that could be such a detrimental thing. I think the religiosity, or like the everybody trying to hold each other to certain rules and rituals, that's a problem. You see how many sections they've broken off into. Even Catholics supposed to be a version of Christians, and I don't know, Orthodox, and they're the real ones, and all that stuff. I don't think it matters because at the end of the day, as human beings, which even the Christian Bible says, like whether you're a Jew or a Gentile, so like the chosen people or not, anybody who wants to believe that they should just love can, have that love and have that peace and enjoy a good life because of it.
Lady Love, did you know that verse continues on? It doesn't matter whether you're Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female. That God basically was okay with all of the was okay with all those disharmonies. That passage is actually more about saying if you're in a terrible plight, don't try and get out of that terrible plight. You should just stay there.
That's not what it's
and love
about.
people.
I mean, back in the day, there were slaves. If you look at America, what? Slavery stopped. The last slaves were free in 1967, maybe even later than that. There's some people that were still being kept on plantations or whatnot. The whole point was no matter who you are, you can love and you can have the freedom and peace that loving thy neighbor as thyself can bring.
But
And
loving thy
caring
neighbor
about
as
your fellow
yourself,
man.
I agree that
Yes,
that
that's the
if you
problem.
want,
It's very
well,
subjective.
no, but no. Actually, I wasn't going to go there. I'm saying the golden rule, as it were. And there's platinum rules, and there's various versions of it. Loving your neighbor as yourself is not a Christian or biblical idea per se. It predates the Bible by a long time in written form, and probably, tens of thousands of years before that, basically having empathy for each other. So, I'm a little bit curious. So it doesn't. You said you're a theist. Do you believe in a God, or do you just believe in the golden rule?
No, I believe that God is love. I believe that there's forces that we cannot see that are between us and amongst us, and that you can choose either the positive or the negative of those forces. You can choose to be like a servant and help others, or you can choose to just be selfish and only help yourself.
Can I ask a clarifying question here?
Yeah, Brady, take it over.
I just want to, Lady Love, would you recognize, or would you say that there's a difference between these two statements? God is love being one, and the other being love is God. Do you see a difference between those two?
I would say that I ponder that for myself. I think it's very interesting that to this day, man has not pinpoint down a definition of love, and man hasn't been able to decide if God is real or not. So if they were synonymous and you could say the inverse, I don't think there would be a problem with that.
I do, in this sense. To say God is love is to acknowledge that God or gods are real, and that those gods are manifested as love. To say love is God
No.
is to say love is a real thing, and you sort of elevate love to the level of what other people are calling God. That's how I would separate those two. And it seems like the way you're talking about love is you elevate that connection between people. You elevate, like you said, those acts of service and all that. You're elevating love to the status of what others have called God. I don't know that so far you've identified this being or entity that you call God that you're willing to say, and that thing is also love.
You lost me because I didn't say anything about multiple gods. Because I definitely believe that
No,
there's only one true, the Most High God. Because there are little Elohim, well, little g gods, because it's like every single human, I guess, like thing that you could do is connected to a spirit. That is also in the Bible. I don't really get into the weeds of all of that because a lot of people don't read or know enough to understand those concepts. But I don't think that they need to believe in love and to believe in God being love and to believe that they should be a loving person and treat other people with respect. Which
and do you
really,
need God
like,
for that?
getting to the point of why I feel like the Christian doctrine, although being borrowed or copying, I guess, off of earlier, text and whatnot. I don't remember his name is. I'm sorry, but like the line guy said, but that is the point where it's like Christianity, it's like each person in each generation experiences God for themselves. And I think that's what like a lot of atheists like miss, because I don't think that a lot of atheists have really tried God. I think that their whole thing is that they don't want to try God because they don't believe in God. But if you try believing in God and you put your faith in God and you test and you walk in faith and do whatever rituals you believe to get you closer to a God that you sincerely believe in, you're going to see God show up. So it's like, how could you tell people what they're experiencing is not real when we don't know?
But you're aware that both of us for decades were Christians, right?
Oh, I've been watching Brady stuff. He never even tithed. So
He never even
I mean,
tithed.
if he believed that his religion called for him to tithe, and then he didn't do the things, then it's like you didn't fully submit. So by definition, you never allowed yourself to fully
So
submit to your
so
faith, so you could never have that
if that's
connection
the
with
litmus
God.
test, which is weird because I've sat in sermons where tithing is absolutely,
That's not the
yeah,
litmus test itself. The
but
full faith is
I
the litmus
tithed.
test.
I tithed. What other litmus tests do we have?
Well, I guess you would have to talk more about what your walk was like. And considering that you were a part of a group that excluded a lot of people, that wouldn't be love.
Do you think that God is? Do you think that God of the Bible is an inclusive God? What do you think the point of the Old Testament
Yeah.
was and the point of Israel was?
Well, I think the Old Testament is an Old Testament for a reason. Because just like we're images of God and we evolve, I don't believe that the Bible is the true and full word like it says. If you know, like about higher spirituality, there's an order of confusion because of free will. So you can't say everything perfectly or right out. There's always going to be tricks in there so that people who do not have discernment can be deceived. And, you know, they choose
How do
to
you
go
know?
with,
Yeah, how do you know?
because I've experienced God for myself.
Have you do people experience things that they attribute to something that it isn't actually? Do people misattribute
Well,
sometimes their experiences?
I think people can attribute their experiences to whatever they want, but we do live in a world where we can prove prove with science that things are going on that we cannot perceive, you know, with our eyes, with our ears, with our senses, and our capabilities, which means that there has to be something outside of, I guess, like the human level of material realm going on. That's why I
What's
put
an
in my
example? What's
call
an
log.
example of one of what's an example of one of those things?
Well, are you familiar with the double slit experiment and the observer effect? How
Yes.
molecules act based on like whether being
Yeah.
observed or not, like they're either a
Mm-hmm.
wave or they go through like straight. So it's things like that. But also just personally, I live in a household where my sister was born of liver disease, and people who have liver disease and get a transplant, they're supposed to be on medication like to keep, you know, the foreign organ in their body forever. But my mom, in her faith, she decided, which, trust me, listening to this story, I'm always like, yo, you're crazy. Like, because what if she would have died? But she stopped giving her the medicine and she's like, I'm going to raise her as a well child. And that's like only a year after her surgery. And even doctors, they said it doesn't make sense. Like, my sister's one of those babies that like died on the table, came back. And I've heard even Brady speak about this before, and like I do believe in, like, I guess, like a purgatory, or like there's like not fully going into the afterlife, but if your heart stops beating, all that other stuff, if your soul can leave your
But
body or whatever essence can leave your body and come
sorry,
back, people
you're
talk
moving
about
to a lot
that.
of topics, and I just want to make sure we hit all of them. So before we jump off
Well,
too
wait,
much,
just let
you
me
had the
finish with the testimony. So she got taken off of the medication, and even her life expectancy, she still lives to this day. She doesn't take any medication to have a foreign
right.
liver in her body. She had a child, which she wasn't supposed to be able to do. And all of that is like based on what man can see and what man
Is
can
that the
know.
first?
I was
Is that
also
the very first
diagnosed with
time?
metaphysics. Huh?
So I mean, I had cancer, and I saw lots of things like this as well. So has anyone in human history, other
Well, cancer is
than your
actually a
mom,
spiritual disease itself.
ha,
No, me, myself,
has
too. I was
anyone other
supposed to
than
be
your
adored.
mom? No, you're telling us that there are things in this world that must require a supernatural to be explained, and I want to find out how you came to the conclusion that it must be supernatural to explain it. When there are lots of people who go into remission, there are lots of people who get misdiagnosed, and having spent a lot of time, several years in the hospital, almost full time, talking to doctors and nurses, they absolutely will play along with people who think that it's miracles. I've talked to them about this. They actually have a hospital policy that if someone thinks it's a miracle, they play along with it because it helps the healing process. So they will absolutely affirm, oh yeah, this is miraculous. We've never seen it, because what they have in mind is the patient's well-being, including their mental well-being. So testimony
Those are
from
the people that you
secondhand.
talk to. How do you know that that's every doctor everywhere that's
I'm
ever
not. I don't. I
experienced or
don't.
seen
I
that?
absolutely don't.
But
But I
that's what
know
I'm
that it's
saying is, like, we
possible.
could get into the weeds all day, but you can't tell me that
But
God's not real.
you told me what you told me was there are things that cannot be explained without supernatural. And I just was
I didn't say
pointing
that.
out.
You summarized it that way. I said that I've
Okay, so
experienced God for myself, and that was just one example.
no. And when I asked you if you could misattribute things, you said like the slit experiment was an example of something that required supernatural to explain. When of course there are scientists who
I
absolutely.
didn't say it requires supernatural to explain.
So
I
then
said
tell me where
clearly
this.
something goes on outside of what human beings can perceive,
Right. And in saying that
meaning
there are
that
things that
there's
go on
something
outside of
other
what,
than the material plane, which they're also
how do you,
working on proving.
well, I think one of the things, and I'm sorry, I sort of fell back a little bit because I do know this caller and I wanted her to hear it from somebody else and not just hear it from me.
Right.
But when you say that there are things that we cannot perceive, whether it be with the human eye, we do have instrumentation that we can magnify things and it helps us to see things that the human eye can't. But just because the human eye cannot see the wave function or can't see, and we need special tools to be able to see these things, none of that means it's something spiritual. There are parts of the material world that we just are not. There are light spectrums that we can't see with the human eye. That doesn't make those light spectrums spiritual. So not being able to detect them with our five senses does not automatically put it in the spiritual category. Would you agree with that?
But who's putting it in the spiritual category? It's like
It
what
seemed
I'm
like you were.
seeing or hearing a lot is that you guys are like using language that I didn't use and trying to summarize things or bring it to points that you guys are comfortable with. This is what you guys as atheists do a lot. But even from the beginning, I said that God is love and I've experienced God for myself. If you guys haven't experienced God for yourself, that's fine. I mean, it's clear that you haven't.
But the
But
question, Lady Love, the question that we're trying to get to is how do you know that what you experienced is God? Just like you talked about the things that we can't perceive with our five senses that are still real, and you were willing to say that's evidence that there must be a spiritual realm. And we're saying to you that's not necessarily, probably not even the best explanation for what you're talking about. How do you know that what you're saying you've experienced God was actually God? Can you explain that in a way that would make me or Paul say, damn, you know what? That actually might be God, other than because right now all we're saying is that could be any number of things that you're talking about. The things you've experienced between people where you felt love
my whole
and you
point
saw the
is
display
that
of love.
if you choose to believe, then you choose to believe. But you guys are saying that you for sure know that there isn't a God. And I think
Neither of us
it's
said
your
that.
burden of
No,
proof.
neither of us said that.
Yes, you
No,
are.
we
As
did not say that.
atheists, that's what you claim, or is it not?
You just complained
No.
about using words that we didn't use. That's not what we
Right.
believe. Neither of us. We had a
Right.
Okay, so
conversation just before you
neither
came
of you are
on.
atheists? No, let's clarify. Neither of you are atheists.
We call ourselves atheists with a different definition than the one that apparently you want to force upon us.
Please,
So
I need you guys to explain what it means then for you guys to be atheists.
For us, I have no evidence to believe. I am not convinced that any God exists.
Yeah, I lack a belief in the existence of a God. I'm not convinced. I can't tell you that I know no God exists. A God might exist. I have no reason to believe that. I am atheist. I am without a belief in God. Atheist.
Non-theist might be a better word in its own way, but
okay. But by saying that you do not believe in an existence of God, then you're saying that your belief is that there is no existence of God.
No. If I held up a jar and there was a number of jelly beans in it, and I said, are there an odd number of jelly beans in this jar? And you say, I don't know. And I said, aha, you're saying there's an even number of jelly beans in the jar. You would say, no, I'm just saying I don't have enough information to know if there's odd number
now you're
or an
creating
even
an
number.
analogy. Now you're creating an analogy to try to make it seem, but it's not the same thing at all.
Of course it's the same thing. We are not you
if you're a person
complained
who does
earlier
not
that we were
believe
putting
in
words
the
in your
existence
mouth.
of God, you said you don't have any evidence to believe in the existence of God.
Do not have sufficient.
Right?
We are not convinced. That's not what we said. We said we are not convinced that there is a God.
But
now I will go a
you
step
have to be
further. This may
convinced
help your
for
case,
other
Lady
people
Love.
to believe in God, because I said that I've experienced God for myself, and I know and believe
Right.
that God is love. I don't have to
But
convince you of it, but you didn't even let me get through my proof. You just started attacking my arguments. You didn't even let me finish.
Well, I mean,
we
this
let
is
you
a
You see,
call-in
this is
show.
what
There's
you
a
guys
back and
do.
forth.
This is a dialogue show. It's not a preach show.
Right. Right.
I didn't say it was a preach show, but it's like you said to give
Lady
you
Love,
evidence, and I never got through my
help you
evidence.
understand? Can I help you understand what this dialogue actually is, though? Because this is not we can tell you that there's no God. You call us and you tell us that there is. This is, we don't think that the evidence that has ever been presented for a God raises to the standard of that warrants belief. And we question what other people put forward as, no. See, I got proof because of this. And we hear it and we say, well, really, if that's what you're saying is the proof of God, and then we can explain these things in a number of other ways. All we're saying is the thing that you're putting forth as proof of a God or evidence or enough reason for you to believe, does that really warrant the faith that you're giving it? I question that. So far, and if you say we haven't let you finish, then maybe that's your response to this. But so far, you haven't put forth anything that makes me say, now I got to consider that, because, man, I don't know how else to explain that. And that's sort of what we're looking for.
But he said that the way that he even explains somebody being supernaturally healed is just that doctors agree with them that if they got supernaturally healed, they just saying, yeah, you got supernaturally healed.
That's
that
not what I
doesn't
said.
mean that
I said
it wasn't supernaturally healing. You
I
said
said
that that's what happens. If people believe that they got supernaturally healed, then doctors just agree
yes,
with
that's
them.
right.
Or
If they
what's up.
believe they got supernaturally healed, not if they actually got supernaturally healed, because that is the question that we are
that's what I'm
asking
saying.
you.
Where's your proof that they weren't supernaturally healed?
I have no. That's where the
now
burden on
you
someone
have
who
no
says
proof.
the burden on someone who said that they're supernaturally healed would absolutely be on what
The
is
fact
the
that nothing
evidence
in
that they're
science
supernaturally healed.
explains why they are healed proves that it's supernatural.
How does that
Because
prove
if you
that
could
it's
explain it by
supernatural?
any other means, then you would be able to do so.
So,
No,
Lady Love, you you go ahead, Paul. Let me just
Listen, I
throw
didn't
this
expect
in.
you guys to be able to,
You do it,
I didn't
Brady.
expect you guys to be able to answer for what I had to say, but I know that's what
Lady
you
Love,
guys atheists. I've been watching these shows for a minute. You guys bring it back to things that you can argue, but you can't argue
can I
against the
ask you
existence
this,
of God.
Lady Love?
You
Do
just
you
said
know
that you
that
don't have enough proof.
Lady Love, do you know that throughout human history, there have been all kinds of phenomena that people had no explanation for at the time? And so
Which
God
is
became
why
explanation for
people
those
keep
things.
going back to God. Wow, he really
Can you,
must
Lady
exist.
Love,
And I don't think God
Lady
is
Love,
a he either. But
Lady
that's
Love,
not
can you
relevant.
let me finish my point? My point was this.
What's your point, Brady?
I'm trying to get to it. Throughout human history, there have been all kinds of phenomena that they had no explanation for at the time. And so God was the gap filler at the time. But throughout time, as time goes on, we realize,
They haven't
we
explained
can
everything
explain.
that they didn't have
I'm not
explanation for.
saying that.
Don't talk like
I'm not
that's
saying that.
true. But that is what you're
Okay.
saying. If you're saying that, then
No,
that's what you're saying.
Lady Love.
There's been things throughout
Lady
history
Love,
that they could not explain, that they later found explanation for. Have they found explanation for every single thing?
Lady Love, I'm going to mute you just for a second because I'm going to let Brady finish his point, and then I promise I will unmute you and let you respond. But this needs to be dialogue, and you complained that we didn't let you finish. I'm going to let Brady finish, and then I will unmute you and let you have your say.
All I was trying to say is, as we advanced as a society, as a species, we've learned more about ourselves, more about our world, and the things that we used to use a God to explain, we no longer do. And what happens in those cases is where God used to be up close and personal because he's the one who made it rain. He's the one who made species of animals. He's the one who, whatever it was, it was God. When we found out the naturalistic explanations for those things, God had to recede further to the background. And it might very well be, that the things that you're talking about, as this is proof of God, we do know what causes this, or we do know what was the reason why this person no longer needed them. We might know those things, but even if we don't, my money is on give us time, because having had time, look at how far we've gotten. Give us more time and see what happens. I would wager that the God that we're willing to say is he's the or it, since you don't like the he, this God is the explanation for love, is the explanation for miraculous healings, is the explanation for fill in the blank. I think we're going to fill in the blanks that used to have God in it with more explanations, more naturalistic explanations. And these are some terms to look up sometime, not now. What I'm talking about is not philosophical naturalism. I'm talking about methodological naturalism, but that leads to advancement in human life. Take some time to look that up one day and see if you can understand what I mean by philosophical naturalism versus methodological naturalism. You're inputting God in places that we, for the most part, I don't think we need to do that. And I think you're fighting for something that I understand it means a lot to you. It meant a lot to me at one time. I would be one of the callers calling into this show, trying to tell people you need to give God a chance. But like Paul said, both of us have given God a chance. And I don't know, Paul, maybe you would speak to this, still willing to give God
Absolutely.
a chance, which is why we're here on the line. We're asking, maybe God can speak through you. But if we have questions about what you're saying, this is not us not giving God a chance. This is us saying this is not convincing. And that's it.
All right. Over thousands of years, hundreds and thousands of supernatural explanations have been discovered to be natural. There's not a single natural explanation that we eventually found out was actually supernatural. It never goes in that direction. But Lady Love, I'm going to now unmute you and let you respond to what Brady said.
Well, I don't know about the terms, but I came on here saying that God is love. Do either of you guys love anyone?
I absolutely do. We both love people, and
Do you
love
believe
is
in God?
a feeling. That do you think that only people who believe in God?
Is it just a feeling? Do you accept love only as a feeling? Or is it deeper than that?
I accept it as a feeling. And or it can mean people have it slushy definitions. It can mean commitment. It can mean various things, but they all surround around empathy. They all are basically various flavors of empathy and being committed and or feeling a certain way positively towards people or animals.
I'm not sure I would even say empathy, but you guys just, I don't know. You said it's not a preaching show, but then you went off on your same old atheist spins. I know God is love, and I experience God for myself.
But do you think that God is needed for love? Can people experience love absent God?
I believe that when people experience love, they're experiencing God. So no,
this is why I made the comment about
love absent God.
Being God.
So you've just basically equated the two things so that there's no difference. Is that am sorry? I don't mean, I shouldn't say you did. I'm asking.
I didn't equate the thing that it's no different. Life itself shows you. I mean,
so I'm supposed to intuit.
If you look at evolution, if you look at human existence, even you guys want to talk about things we can't explain, or now we have, I guess, explanations based on natural whatever. Nobody can tell us to this day why we're here, what we're doing here, or where we should go from here.
What if there are no answers to those questions? What if there are no answers to those questions, Lady Love? Why should I even think that there are answers to those questions?
If love one another, I think that when we divisively all want to believe in different things other than just caring about the people who are here on this earth, human to human, that's when we get to this problem where people don't see God. because they don't see love, because they're not caring about one another, because they're too busy having their rituals and rules and prerequisites. To me, it's that simple, but you guys, I don't know. I don't know what y'all do as atheists.
Well, I guess I see no reason to equate the feeling of love, which is a biological response to being a social experience. Well, then tell me what love is, because clearly you're not. If we are not using the same word in the same way, then you could never convince me that God is love.
Love is sacrifice, which is why the Bible ends up doing that whole big story, whether it's true or not, of ultimate sacrifice. And Jesus, the ultimate example, spends his life in service, feeding, healing.
So you're aware that you've talked about evolution a bit, which makes me think you kind of maybe accept it. You're aware that humans are social species, and that the survival advantage of social species is sacrifice to maintain the species. Like, we want sacrifice for your children, you sacrifice for your tribe. What's that?
Where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am.
Where 2 or 3 are gathered, my name, there I am with you. That's just a Bible verse that I happen to know off the top of my head as well.
There's no love when there's just one person.
That's so, I was just trying to explain how evolution talks about social species, and our strength as a humanity is not that we're fastest, it's not that we're the strongest, it's not any of those things, it's that we cooperate to solve problems. And so,
because of everything love you've talked being about, an innate feature of the creation of God, because God is love. It's
not an innate feature. We actually had to evolve it, and we can see that in the evolutionary record.
I would disagree, because a single-celled organism split.
But single-celled organisms are not social species.
For it to evolve. That's how everything began. Do y'all believe in the evolution theory or not? Like a science?
But I'm just saying, you're attributing this.
You're attributing organism.
You're attributing things that are very explainable by biology.
Because love requires more than one.
You're explaining things that are incredibly simply explained by physical mechanisms, and ascribing to them this notion of God. You're labeling them as God. You're telling me and Brady that we're being silly for not attributing them to God. We ask you why you should, and then you slide on to the next thing. So I guess maybe you weren't. I don't know if you were calling in to try and convince us, or if you just wanted to call in to say, I think this intuitively, and because it's intuitive to me, everyone else should just get it. But not everyone's intuition is the same. My intuition is the opposite. Even though for decades I did believe, I'm just like Brady, I would have called in and said very many of the same things. But those experiences of love, like my baptism, I can still feel my baptism and the love and the support and the warmth that I felt when I came out of that tank. I still feel to this day, but I now no longer ascribe that to the Holy Spirit, right? I ascribe it now to, like, there was dozens of people, the people who I love most were affirming me, and so I no longer say that love was because of God. I understand that was an interconnection between people who I had a connection with. So, Lady Love, we've been chatting for a while. I'm going to give you the last word, but I'm hoping that last word is not a reason why you think it's true, but why Brady and I should think it's true. Go ahead.
You just said that you felt the interconnectedness between people, so you know that there's a force between, i.e. proving my point, because that force between is love, and that force between is God. It's really fine, but I really do hope that you guys learn to experience God again, because, I don't know, atheism is sad to me, or the not belief in God, because, like you said, if I don't believe, first of all, hell is more complicated than that, but the whole point of, I guess, making the world a better place, or loving your neighbor as yourself, and trying to create a better world, because as long as women are still having children, we could assume that humanity is going to keep going, and the highest evolution is going to be when we come to a point of love and understanding. Like you said, empathy, whatever you want to call it, it's still a force that comes from God. meaning, and me, God being the thing that we can't explain, and the love that binds us, and that interconnectedness that you spoke of yourself that you can feel between human beings. That is what I call love. So if you just want to call it empathy and you don't want to call it God, fine, but it exists outside of you, which is why you can feel it among people. That's just my thing. I know y'all atheists are deep in your, I don't know, not being convinced or not having enough evidence, but you experience God regardless. So I think that it's funny. And then I know a lot of atheists are still good people. So
we experience things that you want to put the label of God on. Though Brady and I actually would be nodding here, saying we've experienced all of those same things. You are labeling the things that we experience.
If I had another word for it, I'd use another word for it. You said I would have the last word.
What is it?
Okay?
There's nothing insufficient about using love. Good night. Thank you, Lady Love. Yeah. That, I mean, if you want to say that the universe is God and the lights are God, like, okay, well, that's, anyway, I actually give you the last word on that because you're more familiar with the color. I don't know if you have a wrap-up thoughts.
My wrap-up thought would be, I think God gets in the way. God gets in the way because I think all of the best attributes of humanity and the worst attributes of humanity, what religion causes us to do is to externalize those things. So when someone does something that we find disturbing, we are quick to demonize them because we don't want to believe that a human could be that bad. So we demonize them. But then on the flip side, when someone does something that is outstanding and is very good, religion also doesn't want to give humanity the credit for that. So we also externalize not just our worst, but our best. So that had to be God that caused us or allowed us to love. And what it does is it short circuits our ability to see this is what humanity is, the best and the worst that we have to offer. That is what a human being is. And if we can get God out of the way, we could deal with humanity as it is. We could love it for what's lovable. We can hate what's detestable. And we can say, this is what we are. And we could deal with the reality of the situation in which we find ourselves. That's all we're asking for. And if God is part of that reality, we're saying, well, then be part of the reality. We'll react to you the same way we react to the best in this person and the worst in that person. But until the God shows up and does something, we have nothing to react to except for what other men have said that God has done, which is putting God in the way. And so that's all I'll say to that.
Amen. All right. So we still have plenty of time in the show and plenty of space for theist callers because we will take any callers, but we actually prioritize theist callers. So if you are a theist and you want to talk to myself and Brady, be it about the resurrection, be it about martyrs, be it about the Bible, science, you name it. Although neither of us are scientists, so we would fumble through that in our own insufficient way. But let's get to. So again, because we prioritize theist callers, we have a couple of atheists who have been waiting. We hope you'll keep waiting. But we're going to first talk to. I'm hoping I'm going to get this name right. Is it Rayo?
Just the letters. Just the
R-A-O?
letters. R-A-O. Yep.
R-A-O, welcome.
Yeah, that's my birth certificate name.
Okay. Oh,
how do you pronounce it? You just say the letters. There's no pronunciation.
I think he says R-A-O.
R-A-O.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
it.
Like you don't even have to know how to read to pronounce. Almost R-E-O is the Speedwagon. But when I was born, when my dad said L for male and law for female, and so he tried to name me R-E-O, but he was drunk and he mispronounced it, and now I'm R-A-O. So I'm the only one in history.
Very good. Okay. Very good. All right. So it says here that you are a situationalist, and I don't know what that means. So tell me what a situationalist is, or simulationist. No, I'm sorry. I totally misread that. Simulationist. I do kind of know what that is. Tell me.
I think we live in a video game, to put it bluntly.
Okay. So I know it's not the cool analogy anymore, but like the Matrix, right? Like we're in a simulation.
Yeah, right.
Although there is an episode of Dark Mirror. I don't know if you're watching Dark Mirror in season 7. There's a simulation episode in that one you might want to check out. Black Mirror, yeah.
Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Do you watch that show on Netflix?
I did not.
It's
not
the new,
know that. I'm gonna have to get on
the new
Netflix
Twilight Zone.
Look it out.
Anyway,
yeah.
But,
so it's like an episodic thing where it doesn't have any like continuous.
That's correct. Okay. You can watch any episode from any of the 7 seasons. They're all one-offs, absolutely. And it's similar to it's Twilight Zone. You always get to the end, and it's like a similar kind of a thing. But so let me ask you this though: what difference should that make to me? Or maybe it doesn't. Does it make a difference to me if I live in a simulation or if it's a physical world that has rules? Like I can only live my life with the rules that are presented to me, right?
Yeah, we can only live life according to our physics.
Yeah. So does it actually make a difference if it's a simulated universe or a real universe on a pragmatic basis?
Not really, but I just want to know which is which. Like, I want to know if we live in a simulation or if this is actually like universe prime.
But a really good simulation would be indistinguishable. You kind of agree with that.
Yeah, that's the whole point of a simulation is immersion. Like the very best video game is the game you play not knowing it's a game.
But in most of the games, in most of the games, there's a goal and a point or a mission. Do you think you know what the goal of the game is?
I don't know, but I honestly think it's world peace, and not all games have that kind of thing. SimCity, for example, like you don't win at SimCity. You just build up the population and make life as good as it can be. There's no winning SimCity. It's just like maintaining that city. And in Skyrim, you can do the same thing where you just skip the main goal and you go straight for the side quest and you start like making people's lives around you better. You don't have to have a main goal for it to be a game.
Okay.
All right. So it says here that you think ghosts are real and we have enough evidence to prove it. Is that the main thing you wanted to chat about?
That is the main thing. And I want to start with my own personal story.
Hold on. I'm sorry, real quick. Ariel, are the ghosts simulated as well?
Well, okay. Have you ever recorded over a cassette tape that had something on it already?
Yep.
And you know how, like, there's echoes of what was recorded before? I'm sorry, anybody under 40 years old, a cassette tape is something you used to put in a stereo to record music.
These kind of thoughts tickle my brain. So I like these kind of thoughts just as experiments. So go ahead.
So we're all old enough to get it. So you carry on.
Yeah.
All right. So you take a cassette tape and you record over something that was already recorded on. You can hear echoes of what was recorded first. And that's why tapes get diminished over time, is because the more you keep recording, the more echoes you get. Well, I think ghosts are just echoes of people who were here before. And, like, it gets recorded over, so we only see, like, vague shadow figures or translucent figures.
So what's the medium? What's the medium that we are, if something is being continually erased and recorded over, are these the atoms of the universe that get reused in different people, or what's the medium that you think this is?
I think it's just like lost memory of stuff that has happened. Like, it's not atoms being recirculated. It's just something that happened before happening over again, because it got recorded over, because like even in the best simulation, you're going to have limited memory space.
Well, but so are you saying that our thoughts, that our brains are somehow made of stuff that were previous people's brains that weren't atoms?
Not weren't atoms, but if you think about it like this, you are cow shit. I'm cow shit. Like, we get buried or cremated, and something absorbs us, and then something else absorbs that. Like, worms eat the dirt. Birds eat the worms.
That's what I was talking about with atoms, though, right? Like, even though it's a very high number, there's a finite number of atoms in the finite universe. So I guess that's what I was talking about, right?
Okay. Well, I don't think there's a number of finite atoms. I think that, like, it's finite to a point, but I think that we grow exponentially from the Big Bang. I think that, like, I don't think atoms are being recreated.
All right. So Brady and I love that. We're not poo-pooing this at all. We're actually loving the thought experiment. We're all going through it. But I actually need to get to, just for the sake of the show, the sentence you said, we have enough evidence to prove it. If we have time, I want to get back to your notion. But what is the evidence to prove it?
All right. I'm going to first talk about personal experience. Like, I'm not sure if it was Tanner or Chris, but one of my friends was, like, in bed with me, like, when I was, like, 10 or 11. And he was, like, at a sleepover, and we saw the standby lights on old stereos, the red light when the power was off?
Sure.
All right. We saw something pass by it. And then we both looked at each other like, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. What the fuck do we just see? So we both went into the kitchen to see if my mom or her boyfriend went to the kitchen, and there was nobody there. So that's my personal experience with ghosts. But the evidence shows that ghosts exist, because even if 99.99% of the videos that we see on Slapcam are fake, that still leaves the 0.001 that says ghosts were real. So you have to say that all the video evidence that we have is fake in order to say that ghosts weren't real.
What if I said that? What if I said that you're misattributing? What if they may not be fake videos, but people are misattributing it to ghosts when it's actually something else?
Well, a lot of times that is the case, but there's some things that we just can't explain, and you have to, like, literally convict people of lying in order to say that.
No. People can be wrong. People can be very, very, very sincerely wrong. Right? Like,
right.
I've been incredibly wrong and was passionately telling people something about X, Y, and Z. Turns out later, and this isn't even super, like, I was just wrong, but I was super passionate.
I know people can be wrong. I used to be Christian.
Are you still a theist?
Somewhere in between. I think there's something outside of the universe, but I don't think it's like a god type of character. I think it's a bunch of idiots just like us who have better computer skills.
So, RAO, is your evidence is that you had a personal experience that you couldn't explain, and that you're positing that there are other things, even though you're not identifying them specifically, the mere possibility of things that are not currently explained is evidence for ghosts. Is that a reasonable summary of your evidence?
I'm saying that unless 100% of the videos that we see on, like I said, I don't want to fucking tag it again, but Slapcam does a whole shitload of stuff on ghosts and aliens and all that kind of stuff. And we have to say that all of those videos are fake or misleading in order for us to say there are no ghosts.
And do you understand that I am perfectly comfortable saying that all of them are fake or misleading?
Me too.
So you're calling a whole bunch of people liars?
No, I'm saying I think some are liars and some are sincerely mistaken.
And none of them have any actual fucking presence.
Well, I'm open to that. No. I'm open to that, but I'm not. Just by telling me that there is a third category of correct isn't evidence that there is anything in that category, right? So I was hoping when you said you have enough evidence to prove it, you weren't just saying, well, there's 3 categories, so therefore there must be something in each of those 3 categories. The 3 categories being lying, mistaken, or true, right? So do you have something more to tell me that there is actually something in that middle circle where it's true?
The middle circle isn't true. The middle circle is misleading.
Whichever circle you want to call it. So there's 3 categories: A, B, and C: lying, mistaken, supernatural. Right? Like so. Right. I have tons of examples of lying. I have tons of examples of mistaken. I've yet to see anything that's compellingly not one of those 2 things. So, but I acknowledge that it is a potential category. I'm not trying to poo-poo you. I'm just excited with the possibility that you might be able to tell me something, a reason why there is something in that third category.
Well, because we have to acknowledge that people have filmed different things, and we have photographic evidence of ghosts, we have video evidence of ghosts, we have personal evidence of ghosts. But
so
unless you can say that all of them are false or misleading, then we have to take into consideration that 0.001%.
Right, but you understand that possible. Yeah, that's the question. Why?
Because we can't just assume people are lying. Sorry about that.
So
we can't assume people are lying.
Well, but not assuming that they're lying doesn't mean that we are convinced yet, right? Like you said, there's enough evidence to prove it, or I'm not even going to take that word off the table. You think there's enough evidence that we should believe. Brady and I are nodding our heads, saying that is a possible category. It is absolutely a possible category, but acknowledging that it's a possible category isn't evidence that it is real.
Then you're just going to have to look into it more or experience it for yourself in order to know, because it's hard. I know it's hard to believe in ghosts. It's hard to believe that there's something outside of an afterlife. But
I think it's super easy.
Go
ahead. Sorry, carry on. I shouldn't have interrupted you there.
Well, let's think about it like this. The Christian ideology has a heaven and hell. But if you put ghosts into the picture, it diminishes the idea of a heaven and hell, because there's some kind of afterlife outside of Christianity where there's just fragments of people walking around that never went to heaven or hell.
I mean, depending on your flavor of Christianity, I know a lot of Christians who want to point to near-death experiences and a lot of these kind of things. And they would even acknowledge, the Witch of Endor in the Old Testament, for example, was, bringing people back to have conversations. And Jesus, there was a transfiguration where he talked to Moses and was it Elijah on the mountain. So I think lots of flavors of Christianity, except that this, you're probably right. There's probably some flavors of Christianity that would think ghosts are a problem. I think some would embrace it. It's hard to say.
But just all I'm saying is that there's enough video evidence out there that you would have to claim that it's all false or misleading.
Well, I will say this. Every single time I have gone to look, when people have told me the best one that they think is the best one, to me it's entirely unconvincing, especially as someone who worked 8 years in the film industry on visual effects. And so I sure know a lot about how to make, even without a computer, how to make things look interesting on camera. So, and also the weird... One. Go for it.
My best one is a video from a dispensary in Oregon or Washington. I can't remember which one. But it is illegal to tamper with a video in a dispensary because of, like, minors trying to buy pot and all that kind of stuff.
Nothing illegal has ever happened. That's what I would, especially at a dispensary. No illegal thing has ever happened at a dispensary. But carry on.
But the video is illegal to be tampered with, and they put it on the news. So they were pretty freaking confident that what was going on was real.
The news is not a standard of... The news, I don't know how much you watch the news these days. The news is not a standard of we only put true things on the news. Like, I don't care. Okay, sorry. So I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look up dispensary ghost in Seattle or whatever, and I will check it out. But I will tell you, like, camera lenses, like where I was going with this is even without computers, like lenses and recordings and light create weird things sometimes on artifacts that are like people who know about this stuff.
This is like a fish tank, I think, a bowl that looked like a goldfish tank being knocked over off of the shelf on the dispensary.
Okay.
So this was like poltergeist stuff.
All right. Well, I'm going to look it up, but I guess I will look it up. I promise. I just putting it on the news is not really like helping the case. The dispensary is not helping the case. Just a bunch of things here that on the face of it seems a little weird. Do you acknowledge though that you have not proven this? That you're putting this in the category of because I can't explain it, I'm going to say ghosts.
Well, I'm using ghosts as kind of a blanket term because it's just stuff that like either we can't see or we can barely see, or it's just reminiscent of an older time when things got recorded over.
All right. Well, RAO, I appreciate this call. It's been a good conversation. We've been chatting for a while, and I have other calls to get to. Next time I'm in a dispensary, I'm going to think of you, and I'm going to think about ghosts and how possibly maybe we are erasing an over my consciousness might be an over erased tape. These are all fun thoughts to have after the dispensary. Thank you, RAO. Yeah. Have a great night.
All right. Much love, and I'll talk to you all later.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, I think a dispensary trip would be great for something like that.
Yeah, it seems like maybe he's been himself. Maybe, or I mean, that's not disparaging. In Canada, it's legal. Right. That's all a good thing. And I don't know if anything's legal in your country anymore. It's hard to tell.
Well, you know what? The one good thing is you and I on camera together is proof that America and Canada, we can get along.
Although, you're charging me that 25% tariff to be here, so I don't know if I appreciate that.
And I should have said America. The United States is what I should have said.
You should have said.
We're all North America.
All right. Well, we have a theist on the line, so we have a couple theists on the line, so we definitely want to get to them. So I want to let's first talk to Ian. Welcome, Ian.
Hey, what's up?
And can you tell us about what you wanted to talk about tonight?
Okay, so I've seen this through TV. Basically, the quantum AI got into its own realm of what it identified as a universe. So basically, they were trying to do a test and try to simulate the universe at the beginning of time. And so at the end of it, the AI started calling itself God and started asking the question, are you the observer? Or, well, I think it was, he said, I am the observer, and just a bunch of other weird stuff. But I believe that because of the AI pretending or thinks it is God, I think that is a reflection on our universe that there is a God.
Okay. I will just, before we get onto this, but I will absolutely affirm that our current large language models are absolutely going to be a reflection of the input that they're given. So, yes, right. Absolutely. If you, it's going to absolutely reflect back what it ingests, as opposed to actually having its own special insight. Mm. So I'm glad you weren't going somewhere that it had special insight that we don't. Is this why you're
AI
a theist?
In the quantum, sorry, what were you saying?
I'm saying, does this have anything to do with why you believe in God?
This is in addition of the reasons that I believe in God, but this to me is showing me that there might be here soon scientific proof of a God, and I think this honestly kind of hints towards that.
Okay. Brady and I will be very excited one day when we wake up and on the news, because the news is where all the facts happen, according to our last caller. On the news, we will find out that that there is scientific proof of God, and that might be next week, and it might be in 10 years. But we don't have that now, and I'm not really necessarily in the mood to speculate whether or not how that might come about. So, but I would love to hear why you believe in God and why we should.
Right. Well, this is one of the reasons I believe in God, is because the AI is showing that it's reflecting our universe and the properties of it, and it's saying that it's God. So that might mean that there's a God in this universe that's the source of all reality.
So you're aware that when they do brain scans, when people think about God, that the same center of the brain lights up that we do when we think about ourselves?
Okay, so
does that prove that we are God?
No, it doesn't, but that's not, I'm talking about, it's mapping out the universe. And so it's trying to show how the beginning of time happened.
No, but
this is a little different than that.
We don't need an AI for people to anthropomorphize methods that they don't understand, right? Like, that's just a thing that humans do. So, I mean, I'm excited. Like, if the AI figures this out, great. And if you think that this is a reflection,
well, it's quantum computers that's really going to get the truth of the origins of the universe. And
what is the difference between quantum? What is your understanding of the difference between quantum computing and regular computing?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What is your understanding of the difference between quantum computing and regular computing?
Okay, so quantum computing is like superposition, so it can be a 1 or a 0, where classical computers, they go through bits and they can't just do an infinite amount of calculations. So with an AI and a quantum computer, it's like, we still don't know how powerful this is, but it's getting to be a little on the edge, I would say. And I think from what I've already seen, it seems to, yeah.
Nothing you described there. Nothing you described there ascribes quantum computing power to discover a God that is, like, interesting. right? Like it's just more computing power. Like even if we never discovered quantum computing, we would continue to have more and more powerful processors, whatever. I like the fact that we have better computing power it's not fundamentally different, right? It's just better. It's just faster. It's got more capacity.
Well, it's almost in a sense. Yeah, you're right, but it's like almost infinitely more powerful in a sense. It's not, but it kind of is, like in a weird. Like it's really powerful, and I think it's going to bring us closer to what because everybody says God,
I know
right?
you do.
So
I know you do, and you think that it's going to get us closer, and that's great speculation that none of us really can know. Like that's future prediction. And maybe
so other than future prediction, we have what we've already seen, and it seems like the AI is reflecting what would be our universe, and our universe would inquire a God.
Do you know that I can ask an AI to explain the universe and tell it without God as the last two words in the sentence of what I ask it to do, and it will give me great answers that have nothing to do with God, because it just ignores all the input that it already had about God.
Okay, I got a little lost there. So,
well, I'm just saying the training set for AI, right? Like they train on. So, for example, Meta, it came out that they've like every pirated book that ever has been in existence, they have fed into the Meta AI, and basically it's human knowledge. The whole internet is there, and that includes the 90% of the planet who believes there is a God. So, how can the training data not point to God when 90% of the humans believe in God? So it's unsurprising that an AI would come back with material that reflects the training data.
Okay, I get what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing, but
go ahead.
What the way I see it is like the picture it's trying to show and the reflection of that. Like it's hard for me to really describe it, but Ian, I'm trying my best here, like to explain.
Ian, would you consider this? Because you just used the word reflection, and everything that Paul from the very first sentence that he spoke in this call, what he's trying to suggest to you is that what AI is doing is it's reflecting not the idea that there's a God, it's reflecting humanity. Like everything that the AI puts forth, it's not going to prove something beyond humanity. It's going to reflect back to humanity everything that humanity has ever thought. It's proof of us. It's not proof of God when you think about it.
Yeah, well, I guess honestly, I just have to look into that more because so I agree with what you're saying, and so I'll definitely have to look into that more.
Okay, but do you have a couple minutes to tell us what was the main reason you believe in God?
Well, there's a lot of little weird reasons, and it's one of those things. I don't call them. I'm sorry, what?
I was going to say, do you have a reason why? I'll rephrase. Do you have a reason why Brady and I should believe in God?
Okay. Well, at the start of my beginning to believe in God, I imagined that reality would just it would have to have a God for reality to exist. Like it would need a consciousness for it to function and have any physicality to reality itself. So
why is that?
Well, it was the picture in my mind. It's like I can visualize it, but I can't really word it out too well.
Okay, but you said that it has to have a consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. So what is the necessity? Why must it have a consciousness?
The necessity is a change in nothingness. So for nothingness to truly not continue, as weird as that, the subject is, it needs something to change, something has to happen. So consciousness is the only thing that would move anything out of place.
Is it your understanding that cosmologists think that there ever was nothing?
Right, but there's a different kind of nothingness. I'm not talking about absolute nothingness. I'm talking about what is considered nothingness it's kind of hard to explain. I'm sorry.
Okay, but so that's not necessarily a great reason then why Brady or I should believe. Would you agree?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Well, this nebulous notion that you have that is very clear to you, but not very well or can't be articulated particularly well. That's not a great reason why Brady or I should change our mind about God.
No, I wouldn't say so. But I mean, that's the thing about the human mind takes time to transform. And so instantly on the spot, no, I don't think I can instantly convince you. But
you're right to say that that's not necessarily a fair bar. Convincing isn't necessarily a fair bar, and I agree with that. I guess, but I was asking what your best shot was, or what you thought maybe was the best reason why Brady or I should believe, and that wasn't a great one.
Well, there is one thing. It's a little weird. My voice is on a song that's not supposed to be there. It's a low volume. You can hear it. And it's on a song called Reclamation by Lamb of God. It's not supposed to be there. It's my voice.
Okay. Well, voices do. I mean, can you think of reasons? What might a skeptic say?
I can think of a reason why I got there, yes, and my reason would be quantum mechanics. The quantum fields of the sound barriers pushed through the mic, and it somehow copied it onto the song.
Are you aware that some people sound similar?
Yeah, but this is definitely. I know it's my voice, and I know it doesn't sound anything like him. We're two totally different type of vocals, and the volume's low. It's not supposed to be there.
So in your view, the God of the universe, especially for you, Ian, put your voice into a song so that you would believe in him?
No, I think it's I think it's an effect of the psychosis I had, and it affected. It may have an effect on the. It's a really good question. Why it's actually there? I mean, I've been wondering this for years.
Okay, so I mean, if there's involved in psychosis, I'm not trained to talk at all about mental health and those kind of things, but it immediately puts up a bit of a yellow flag for me.
I'm on medication. I'm not talking about my psychosis right now.
Okay,
I'm just saying what.
Right, and this is kind of a common theme tonight. I mean, it just seems like it's at least possible that you're misattributing this.
Well, I've had other people confirm it with me. I've had my friends say, "Yeah, it sounds just like you. It's on, it's."
Okay. Have you ever had your friends compliment you when you didn't deserve it?
No, most of my friends kind of were a little brutal, but sometimes, yeah. I mean, It depends, but yeah, I'll say yeah.
Maybe he thinks he always deserves it. I don't know.
I mean, I've definitely been the person who, like, I'll play along for this conversation will stop. Yeah, that sounds exactly like you, Ian. Absolutely, that's you. Weird. I mean, I guess your friend's testimony doesn't tell me that it actually is a thing.
Yeah, true, but I mean, to me, I've seen. To me, it kind of it tells me that there's something off with reality, and to me, I kind of assume that to be God.
Okay. Well, we do have other calls. We have stuff to get to, and I do appreciate your call. We've strayed pretty far from the quantum computing that you wanted to talk about. Thank you so much, Ian. Did you have a last word that you wanted to give us?
Yeah, world peace. Like, let's bring peace and joy to the world. Let's stop the hate. Let's stop the vengeance. Let's bring something good to life, and let's not worry about death. And let's just try to, strengthen ourselves mentally and physically. And that's about all I can say, other than keep it
that's a very good atheist prayer you gave us. Thank you so much, Ian.
Yeah.
All right. So I have been a neglectful host, and I have not announced that we are on the line. The line is we're on SkepTalk, which is on Monday nights. We have a variety of shows on this very channel. So if you are watching and you are not currently subscribed to the channel, you should absolutely tap on that button right now so that you can see coming up tomorrow. And tomorrow we have Chewed Gum with Skeptical Heretic, and Eve Was Framed will be on then. Wednesday, we have the Hang Up Show. Eve is on again, promise, with Matt Dillahunty. And on Thursday, we have, and these are just too small for what I can read. We have the Transatlantic Call-In Show on Thursday. Sunday, we have Matt and Seth. Oh, wow. For the Sunday show, absolutely, you will want to hear Sunday for the Powerhouse, Seth and Matt. And the late show will be Forrest and Eric from Skeptic and Scoundrels on the late night after show for the Sunday show. And next Monday, a week from now, Aaron Ra and Erica Gibson will be here. So you should absolutely be calling in with your evolution questions, because they are the experts and amazing at this. So that is just yet about a taste of the exciting things happening on the line this week and always. So you should definitely subscribe. Appreciate that. All right. That said, we have at least one more atheist call. You ready for another one?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. So, we lost our theist call. Okay, we have a couple of atheists who have been waiting for a long time, so we absolutely will honor and get to that. I think first come, first serve. We have Lilith. Lilith from Texas, welcome to the show. Can you hear us? Lilith, if you were calling on the call-in studio, sometimes if you wait for a while, the mic you have to like tap it or whatever, because it mutes on its own. You need to kind of do a bit of jiggling or something. I forget. I don't even remember what the advice is. Maybe the producer can remind me what the advice is for getting unmuted. Lilith, are you there? Oh, I think I didn't hit I hit the wrong button. There we go. Lilith, I am so sorry. That was on me.
No worries.
They should not leave me unsupervised. This is the lesson. Welcome to the show. What can we help you with, or what can we talk about tonight?
Well, I really wanted to just talk with you guys. I look up to you guys a lot. I've been watching your videos for a while. I thought I might try to call in tonight, but I had a question about how you overcome, like, your faith, especially when your family's involved. I don't know if you guys had any advice or anything like that.
Brady, why don't you?
Can you be a little more specific when you say overcome? your faith when family's involved? Can you give me a little more precise with what you're talking about?
Of course. I apologize. I mean, like, when maybe context would be helpful. Like, I have my mom is super deep. Well, not super deep, but she's into it. Like, she wants me to come to church with her. And my dad has been like almost abusively religious, but we've divorced. He's divorced. He's gone. In my time that I've been trying to move away from my faith, like become, let myself be secular instead of. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm nervous. Sorry.
No, you're
doing great.
I just mean like. Hold on, let me just rephrase really quick. I mean, like, how, maybe just hearing, like, how did you guys, like, when you guys, like, for lack of a better term, came out as atheists, if you ever did, like, how did you do that, and how did you deal with the fallout?
Okay.
You can start.
If you have.
You can start, Brady.
Yeah. So for me, I began to lose faith in 2014. I didn't actually own my unbelief until about 2021, maybe mid 2020. So I was living two lives for about 5 or 6 years. And I think one of the key things for me was getting to the point where, one, I did not want to do that anymore. I didn't want to live two lives. I wanted to be authentically me. And then two, it was being able to, and this was just me, for others, it may not be this way. I needed to be able to articulate why I didn't believe. And I think that was because I had spent so much time being so vocal and so public about my faith and leading others into the faith for decades, that I knew if I came out and said, hey guys, I don't believe this anymore, people would ask why. And what is it? First Peter, a verse in the Bible that talks about being ready to give a reason.
3:15. Yep.
Yeah, always being ready to give a reason for your faith. I knew that I needed to be able to give a reason for my lack of faith. And so 2020, 2021, I started doing the research so that I could articulate, here's why I don't believe. And the more I got a handle on that, the more I felt like I can share this information with my family. And I was the one in my family, I was supposed to be catching the spiritual baton from the generation before me. And I was going to carry that baton or carry that torch for my generation. So I knew that when I told them, hey, the one that you all were looking to pass the torch to, he's not going to receive that torch. But I was going to be able to sit down with anybody who asked. I wasn't going to beat anybody over the head. I wasn't going to make them listen to me. But if anyone said, hey, can we go out and talk about why you don't believe? I was going to be able to represent that. And so getting that confidence helped me go a step further with being public with my unbelief with my family. I'll start there.
And
wow, that's.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that's really, I resonate with that a lot, and I thank you for sharing.
I will share a little bit about mine and there's a lot of overlap with Brady, but I will also say in hindsight that you do not owe anyone. No one coming out, no one deconverting, no one who leaves the faith owes anyone, no matter who they are in your life. You don't actually owe them that explanation. There's no homework required to stop believing. So I also took on for myself, much like Brady, but I think Brady, you'd probably agree, you put that upon yourself as a responsibility, not something that everyone is mandated to carry.
Like I said, that was me. And I think it was me because of my history being so vocal. But once again, like I love what you're saying. There's no mandate to do that.
Similarly, I was also, decades into it. I mentioned earlier, I've come from a Mennonite background, which is a very, 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 very conservative background. I went to Bible school. I was worship leader at my church. I was youth leader at my church. I memorized most of the New Testament. I paid for my Bible college with by competing in Bible quizzing tournaments, like getting scholarships there. I served to teach. I served to teach kids. To memorize scripture. That was like literally what I did. But similarly, in around 2015, I started. You don't need my deconversion, right? You want to talk about it. So after I decided that this was all falling apart for me, and that I no longer was in the faith, I actually trusted someone very close to me with that information to try to figure out a path. And unfortunately, that person let the cat out of the bag to everyone else. I was outed against my will. And so one of the things I often advise is that's the worst way to do it. I think to being outed against you, because all of a sudden it was like, well, everyone's coming at you, and I wasn't. So I made the mistake then of getting, and I pitched myself, I'm a cautionary tale. I'm what not to do, right? So I got super defensive and assumed that everyone coming at me wanted a debate. Some of them did. Some of them absolutely did want the debate, but not everyone did. And I was a little bit overzealous. And also because everyone that I worked with was a Christian, everyone in my social circles was a Christian, my children were Christians, my parents were Christians, my sibling, everything. Just, there was almost no one in my life who wasn't. That immediately created, by being outed, this incredible island for myself. But I got incredibly lucky because my family, some of them severed, but some of them decided that I was more important than the disagreement. And we worked together because we knew that we could barely be in the same room because this very, very important thing was so opposite. We all came to this collective agreement that the relationship was more important than the disagreement. And that's not true for everybody, but that we then found ways to, okay, well, we're setting boundaries now. We're not going to talk about politics or religion when we get together. We have other things we can talk about, and we'll just know that we can set that aside for the sake of this. And those relationships eventually, some of them began to heal. I'm incredibly fortunate that my relationship with my children healed and came back. I was just visiting them, some of them last week. And I can't say that is true of all the relationships, but I just will say encouragingly, I started off in the worst possible way, but did manage to find a path to that my family, even though some of us disagree violently, that setting boundaries is an important way. I know that that's not going to be everyone's experience, and I've actually made a video about how to come out as an atheist. Is a video that I've done. It has some of this advice. I had Neil 604 who's talked to hundreds and hundreds of people who've deconverted, and it basically took all the best advice from them. And so some of that is like, don't debate. Take a few years, figure it out. Decide which relationships are super important to you. And also, Lilith, I don't know if you are financially dependent on any of your family at this point, or if it would be a danger to you.
I'm 17 and in Texas. I'm like in that weird spot where, for some reason, I'm age of consent, but I'm not financially dependent, which is really weird. So that's strange, but I'm dependent on my mom right now.
How do you think your mom would respond if she was to find out if you were outed? How do you think that your mom would respond?
Here's the cool thing. I don't know if I didn't mean to mislead if I did on accident, but I am out to her and
gotcha.
to my grandparents. And it's just, which is good. She's been really helpful, like really sweet and kind about it, but it sucks sometimes when we get into arguments and I get overzealous because I love channels like yours. I love Forrest. I mean all of them. They're just my favorites. Genetically modified skeptics. I enjoy listening to them, and so I get excited because I'm like, oh, I can be like my role models. I can whatever. I'm like, this is my mom. I don't need to lay the smack down on her. She's my mom. Like, and I related to you when you said that you got overzealous. I'm like, yeah, I had a mistake like that. But with my dad, I haven't seen him in a year, and he actually just came and dropped off the kids a couple minutes ago, like my brothers and sisters. But it's nerve wracking when he's around because I know that he was like Church of Christ Christian. I was raised that way. He's very hateful, very vengeful in his way. Like, I know for sure, like, I remember having nightmares of him. Like, if this is too dark for the show, let me know, I'll stop. But, like, I'd have nightmares of him killing me or finding out that what I was. And it was scary, because I was just so afraid of him. And he still has a little bit of control over my life, but I'm working to getting him out.
That's very prudent.
That fear just kind of gets me, and a lot of it's rooted in the church that I grew up in, where it was just like, no one else is right. If we are the only correct one, there's no other alternative. You're lucky enough to found the right church. You're in the right one. There's no other right one, so you can't leave. And as a kid, I had a lot of, like, my dad would buy anti-evolution books, and I didn't know any better. I thought that's just what science was. So I would read these books and I would read a sentence like, "Oh, scientists don't believe this thing. Obviously, it's stupid. Why would they believe whatever?" Like, dumb, right? Stuff that is super stupid now, but it made the stuff that I was brainwashed with as a kid.
Yeah, I thought dinosaurs were on the ark. We're in the same
literally.
boat.
Yeah. Same boat as the dinosaurs.
Exactly. Yeah, we barely made it out.
Yeah.
So that's.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you guys got callers.
Yeah, but that actually sounds like you're on the right track. I think it doesn't matter actually whether it's religious or not. Boundary setting with people you love, even if you really love people and you have a great relationship, setting boundaries is always good. So I encourage you over the years with your father, if that ever does become problematic, if you choose and want to continue to have a relationship with him, and I hope that's the case, but you're not obligated to continue with that, obviously. I think just, at least in my experience, setting those boundaries and adhering to them, especially if you're the zealous one like I was, you honoring it is gonna go a long way, and then model the kind of relationship you have. I'm so excited that things are on a path. It seems like you're on a path where you can see light at the end of the tunnel. And if you have to move out of Texas to do it, I hope you manage to figure that out as well. I know it.
Honestly, with how things are going, maybe out of the country. But
well, Canada will figure. We may or may not be better next week. We'll see.
I'll meet you in Canada.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lilith. Did you have a final thought?
I just wanted to say thank you so much. I think you guys. I love what y'all do. I think Paul and Brady, you guys are super sweet and kind. I was getting kind of frustrated listening to other callers. I was like, God, how are they not blowing up? But y'all are super kind, and I love what y'all do.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much. Night. I do. I assume that sometimes I think you would agree with me that it in a movement in society, we need all kinds of people. You need the hothead, as well as you need the calm person. You need the sarcastic person, as well as the intellectual person. All those kind of things. Yeah. So, but you and I actually do tend to be. I think we're on that whole patient side of things. I don't think that's a theistic trait. I think that's just probably the way. Or did you used to be different? Did you used to be?
No, I am the type. I always do a lot more listening than speaking, so that when I do speak, I try to be as informed as possible, just on a personal level. And one of the things I was going to say, I was thinking it as Lila was calling, is I think one of the things that helps people who are deconverting is finding the balance between being who you're going to be. This is who I am. I'm a listener. I'm a deep thinker, whatever. Be the kind of person you're going to be, but also I hate to say this because it almost puts too much weight on people sometimes, but you almost have to be the best human you can be, because that takes the argument away from people who want to, disown you or dehumanize you or demonize you because you don't believe anymore. When they there are some people who they haven't believed in years, and no one around them knows. I have people who I'm keeping their secret for them, and they share it with me. And for quite a few of them, part of the game plan is it's been 3 years since they haven't believed. And when they finally tell their family's going to have to wrestle with, well, wait a minute, you haven't believed in 3 years? And you've still been loving, you've still been kind, you've still been all the things I thought you were only doing that because you were a Christian. And so sometimes just being the kind of human being that people think you can only be by being religious is preaching the message that you want to preach.
I agree very much. I want to step on that. No, that's such a good note. I have questions, but I'm gonna leave them. I'm gonna leave the questions because you left it on. You preached. You left an amen moment. So we're now gonna go to super chats, where I'm sure it's all just gonna be enlightened thoughts that are just gonna elevate. There will be no weirdness or no strangeness. Brady, are you willing to read with me, alternate with me? We have some strange acronyms on the line acronyms, I should say, on the line that maybe you'll know, maybe you won't. I will read this first one, and then we'll alternate and see where this goes. We have a super chat from Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. Imagine a box where you have to guess what's inside. There are many more things that could not be in there that could. God is like that. Too abstract. Okay.
That's funny to think about. Wow, there's many more things that could not be inside. Good.
Yeah, that's a deep thought, Mystic Mind. Appreciate.
All right, this is from Ashira. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Isn't God a he? What's the I? Is that IIRC?
If I remember correctly.
If I remember correctly, okay. According to Dr. Stavrokopoulou, God had a penis and testicles. Was I supposed to not say that?
You're good.
After the deconstruction of the temple, God became a spiritual being. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yes. If you, depending on how much you want to get into the Mesopotamic influences on the Old Testament, I think a Christian would disagree strongly, but absolutely, if you realize that the Old Testament is actually a revision of other religions that were around at the time. Yep.
If anybody's not familiar with Stavrokopoulou, that the book is God and Anatomy. That's the book that she's referencing there.
Indeed. All right. Thank you so much for that one. $4.99 from Pure Taco. What a great name. I think the first caller turned me into an atheist. Oh, no. Oh, great. Yay. All right. So everyone go listen to that first caller again, and you'll become an atheist. If that first caller, were they the ones that were challenging us to what an atheist even meant? So you'll have to define what you mean by atheist. But yeah. Indeed. Thank you, Pure Taco.
All right, this is from Jason Jones. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, you kids will never appreciate Beethoven until you hear it live in a concert hall surrounded by your fellow lords and gentlemen.
Nato Wamfrey?
I was trying to figure out how to say it, and I don't know.
Nato Wamfrey. So unfortunately, I don't. Do you understand the reference here?
I was thinking, is it a movie? Is it a line from a movie or something? I don't know.
Appreciate you're live at a concert hall surrounded by your fellow lords and gentlemen. I don't know. Sorry, Jason Jones. I'm probably everyone in the chat is loving this and laughing at us for not understanding the reference. Okay. So that's probably what's happening. I never have the chat open because it's too distracting for me, and I get often. Yeah. Stephanie Helms, our call screener, $10. Thank you. Obligatory Oak Island reference. Oh, all right.
I don't get that reference.
Well, I'm wondering if it's so is Oak Island that supernatural TV show? Yeah, sorry, Oak Island here in my province. There's a Curse of Oak Island. There's a whole reality show where they've been trying to find this buried treasure and all the mystical things that have been happening there. And it's basically a giant conspiracy theory show that they've been milking for around my province. And so if it's if you love the ghost hunter type stuff, that's what's happening. Anyway, it's around the corner from me, from where I live. Wow. that's why it's relevant to the show. Although, funnily, I was worried that Stephanie was referring to Oak Island as a euphemism for coffee table, which we do not talk about on the show. No coffee table.
I get that reference. I get that.
All right, Brady. Okay. Thanks, Stephanie.
So this is Monkey at Typewriter. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, Happy National Urine Test Day. I missed that one. Remember, as an atheist, you are commanded to deny God's existence or don't meet Lady Love's standards for atheism. Yeah, and so one of the reasons I was silent during that call is, so I've spoken to that caller several times about some of these issues. I think just a steady diet of listening to these kinds of shows, from all the things that are often said on this show, I think even if, this is not to say that she would have been convinced by now that there's no God or anything like that, but just to have a conversation where you understand what the other person is talking about, to know what people mean when they say atheist, especially in these circles. It's almost like you're talking past us. You're not talking to us. And that's what Monkey at Typewriter is playing up here, that caller wasn't really talking to us. They were talking at us and then talking past us by not even understanding how we're approaching things.
Indeed. All right, $20. Thank you so much, Mr. Borakua 10. And it's right. You put the pronunciation right in the super chat. Pronounced Boricua.
Oh yeah.
Boricua. Roll that R a teensy bit. All right. I hope I did it right, Mr. Boricua. Welcome, Mr. Goodwin. Yes, absolutely. Welcome, Mr. Goodwin. I'm so excited to have you here. Lovely to have you here. Y'all hosted a good show this eve. Lady Love had some thoughts. I'm not fooling, okay? I'll see myself out for that lyric. All right. Appreciate that. Boricua.
Wow. Well, thank you guys for all the super chats. All right, I'm going to try this one. Aliyah Shana Silverbow. How do you think I did there, Paul?
I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
Aliyah Shana, maybe? I don't know. Oh, no, but it's the wrong team.
Coffee table gang.
So now I'm going to just deliberately mispronounce. Alias Hannah.
I mean, this has been going on for years, and there's still
Alias Hannah still going on. Yeah. Oh, another $5 from Mr. Boricua 10. Also, oh my goodness. Also, hashtag Team Coffee Table. You're not getting away from this, Paul. Sheesh. Well, at least, fortunately, this is a non-binding referendum, so it doesn't matter what the chat says. Shannon's not here to defend herself, so.
Jamnick06. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Hi, Brady. Enjoy your co-hosting skills. Now, if you can teach Paul how to unmute the callers, and then Team Coffee Table.
Yep, that would be good. This is the reason they don't usually give me the keys. All right. Well, we got to the end. I want to remind everyone about Brady's book, Let There Be Gaslight. What is happening in your world and on your channel coming up in the next little while that people should know about?
Oh, wow. So what's today? Today's Monday.
Tuesday, right? Monday, the 21st. Yep.
Okay. So I do a midday show on Mondays and Tuesdays and Fridays. I hop on YouTube Live, talk about current events or react to videos that people send me, unless I'm recording with somebody. But on this Thursday, I'm doing a show. I had a guest on. I do a series called Life After Faith, where people come on and get to tell their extimony, their deconversion story. I did a show with a woman named Crystal a few weeks ago. It was an excellent show. Everybody loved Crystal. She's coming back on this week to talk about, the subject is, does God hate women? And we're dealing with verses in the Bible that that talk about the way God seemingly sees women through the eyes of the men who wrote the Bible. So I'm excited about that.
I think I know the answer, but I will tune in to find out, and maybe to show the work.
Yeah, Eastern.
Awesome. And for those of you who for some reason we have another super chat to break my plug. We'll go ahead with that. $5.
Don't let me read it. 10. Yeah.
Lady Love is insufferable. God is love, but his book commands the killing of queer people, including those who use they them pronouns. Yes, I think Lady Love referencing of the Bible. It was interesting that she had a fluidity in her beliefs that she could pull from the Bible when she wanted to, and absolutely pull away from. Well, if it's true, she likes the parts if they're true, and is able to escape out love parts. So that's interesting. So those who haven't seen, I think last time Brady and I were speaking, we were battling for Satan in a video that we both did together, defending Satan from Satan's Guide to the Bible. So if you need more of Brady, absolutely, you should go and subscribe to his channel and catch that show on Thursday. And between now and then, check out our collab that we did, defending Satan, doing his good work. All right. Thank you so much, Martin, for our producer. Thank you, Stephanie, our call screener. Thank you to all the mods and for everyone who makes the line possible. For our patrons, appreciate you all. And as far as I know, we're wrapping her up. And this is the time of the show where we just wait for the music to stop. We never know when it's gonna. And so we need to keep pretending like we're laughing.
That's right.
That's right.